now Americans alone are carrying $1.277 trillion in credit card debt, the highest number ever recorded in history. And that's just one country. On an individual level, the average American carries a balance of over $6,000 at an interest rate of nearly 23% per year. But this isn't an American problem. In the UK, Australia, Canada, Brazil, across Europe, credit card debt is one of the most widespread and least talked about financial traps in the world. The numbers are different. The psychology is identical. Because every month, millions of people around the world send a portion of their paycheck not toward anything they bought, but toward interest, toward the cost of simply carrying a balance, toward a fee for a purchase they may not even remember making. And most of them didn't plan for it to be this way. They didn't sit down one day and decide to hand over hundreds of dollars, or pounds, or reais, or euros in interest charges every year. They just used the card, like everyone does, like it was designed to be used. Because here's what I want you to understand by the end of this video: credit cards are not just a payment tool. They are one of the most psychologically sophisticated financial products ever built. Every feature, the minimum payment, the language on the statement, the way the transaction feels in the moment, was designed with a very specific outcome in mind. And that outcome is not your financial freedom. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how that design works. You're going to recognize the specific psychological mechanisms that keep people in debt longer than they need to be. And you're going to have a completely different relationship with every credit card statement you ever read from this point forward. Stay until the end. Because the last part is the one that changes how you see the number on your bill forever. Let me describe a scene that might feel familiar. You get to the end of the month, the bill arrives, and the balance is higher than you expected. Maybe a little, maybe a lot. You think about paying it in full, but something else came up this month. The car needed work. The kids needed something. Life happened. So you look at the statement and you see that number, the minimum payment. It's manageable. It's small. It feels like the reasonable option for right now, with a quiet promise to yourself that next month will be different. Next month comes, and the cycle continues. Or maybe this version is more familiar. You use the card for everything: groceries, gas, subscriptions, dinner out, because it's convenient, because you get points, because it's just easier. You tell yourself you'll pay it off at the end of the month. And sometimes you do. But sometimes the balance is a little higher than expected, and a little becomes a lot. And one day you realize you've been carrying a balance for months without ever making a conscious decision to go into debt. Sound familiar? You are not alone. According to Bankrate's 2025 credit card debt report, 46% of cardholders carried a balance for at least 1 month in the past year, and more than 1 in 4 people with revolving credit card debt say they generally only make the minimum payment every single month. That's not a small group of people making bad decisions. That is an enormous portion of the population doing exactly what the system was designed to get them to do. And here's what I really need you to hear. This doesn't happen to careless people. It doesn't happen to people who don't care about money. It happens to responsible, hardworking, financially aware people. People who read articles about saving, who know interest rates are high, who fully intend to pay off the balance. It happens to them because the credit card was not designed to be easy to pay off. It was designed to feel easy to carry. There is a difference. And once you understand it, everything changes. So let me show you exactly how it works. So here's what's actually happening. On the surface, a credit card looks like a tool of convenience. You buy something, you pay for it later, you move on. Simple, fast, painless. But that word, painless, is exactly where the story starts to change. Researchers at MIT studied what happens in the brain when people pay with credit cards versus cash. When you pay with cash, your brain registers something uncomfortable, an actual psychological cost they call the pain of payment. It creates friction. It makes you think twice. It acts like a natural brake on spending. A 2021 study published in Scientific Reports went even further, using brain scans to show that credit card payments and cash payments activate different regions of the brain entirely. When you tap your card, the brakes come off. This is called payment decoupling, the separation of the moment of buying from the moment of paying. And it's not a side effect, it's a feature. A purchase that feels painless is a purchase you're more likely to make. And more purchases mean more balance. And more balance means more interest. But it goes deeper. The second layer is anchoring bias, and it's hiding in plain sight on every statement you've ever received. When your brain sees a number, it uses that number as a reference point for everything that follows. Your minimum payment, maybe $85, maybe $130, becomes that anchor. It becomes what a reasonable payment looks like. Everything above it starts to feel like extra effort. But here's what that anchor is hiding. Someone carrying an average balance of $11,400 at 23% interest, making only the minimum payment every month, would pay nearly $18,500 in interest and take 22 years to clear the debt. 22 years. The minimum payment isn't the safe option. It's the most expensive option. It just doesn't look that way on the statement. And then there's the language. Available credit, not available debt. Minimum payment, not the amount that keeps you in debt for decades. Revolving credit, not debt that never goes away. Every one of those phrases was chosen deliberately. Because when your debt is described as available credit, your brain processes it as an asset. And assets feel like things you should use. Now here's your checklist. 4 signs the system is working exactly as designed. 1. I'll pay the minimum this month and catch up next month. 2. I have the credit available, so I might as well use it. 3. It's a small balance, I'll deal with it later. 4. I'm not really sure how much interest I'm paying each month. Think about the last time you looked at a credit card statement. Did any of those sound familiar? If they did, now you know exactly where they came from. And more importantly, they were never really yours. Here's what I want you to take away from everything we just covered. You didn't end up carrying a credit card balance because you're bad with money. You ended up there because you were using a product that was designed, tested, and refined over decades specifically to make carrying a balance feel normal, feel manageable, feel like the responsible choice. The pain of payment was removed, so spending would feel consequence-free. The minimum payment was placed front and center, so debt would feel small. The language was carefully chosen so liability would feel like opportunity. None of that happened by accident. It happened by design. And you were never supposed to notice. So here's the shift. From this point forward, every time you look at a credit card statement, you're going to see 2 numbers, not 1. The first number is the minimum payment, the number they want you to focus on. The second number is what that minimum payment actually costs you over time. And once you start seeing both, the minimum payment stops looking like the reasonable option and starts looking exactly like what it is. This doesn't mean credit cards are something to fear or throw away. Used deliberately, paid in full every month, a credit card is genuinely useful. The rewards are real. The convenience is real. The problem was never the card. The problem was the invisible architecture built around it, designed to quietly pull you toward carrying a balance after month. And now that architecture is visible, the next time you get a statement and feel that pull toward the minimum payment, you'll recognize it. Not as a practical choice, as a psychological trigger. And that recognition alone is worth more than any budgeting tip you'll ever read. So remember this, the minimum payment was never designed to help you get out of debt. It was designed to make staying in debt feel reasonable. The language was designed to make liability feel like opportunity. And the painless swipe was designed to make spending feel consequence-free. You were never supposed to see all 3 of those things at the same time. Now you do. And here's what that actually means in practice. The next time you open a credit card statement, you're going to feel something different. Not anxiety, not guilt, clarity. You're going to see the minimum payment for what it is, a number engineered to become your anchor, and you're going to ask a different question. Not, can I afford the minimum this month? But, what is carrying this balance actually costing me? That question alone changes everything, because the person who asks that question makes a completely different decision than the person who doesn't. And this goes beyond credit cards. Once you understand that financial products are designed with your psychology in mind, not your best interest, you start looking at everything differently. The loan with the low monthly payment, the subscription that's almost impossible to cancel, The insurance product that sounds reassuring but protects the company more than it protects you. They all use variations of the same playbook. Complexity to confuse, language to normalize, numbers framed to anchor your expectations in the wrong place. Credit cards just happen to be the most common entry point, the place where most people first encounter this system without realizing it, and the place where, once you understand it, the shift in perspective is immediate and permanent. You are not someone who struggles with money. You are someone who is handed a sophisticated psychological tool and never given the manual. Consider this the manual. From this point forward, every statement, every offer, every financial product you encounter, you now have a question to ask before you decide. Not, does this feel manageable? But, who does this design benefit? Because those two questions lead to very different places. And the fact that you're asking the second one now, that's the whole point.